Imagine an individual who has overdosed 24 times.
Wow.
Yeah, 24. Someone who, lost his life savings to the streets, lost custody of his daughter, and was just universally considered this hopeless heroin addict wandering the most dangerous, hollowed-out parts of Detroit.
Just a completely bleak picture.
Right. Can you picture that guy? Okay, now I want you to picture that exact same person graduating with a 4.0 GPA from the University of Michigan's top-ranked School of Social Work.
It's hard to even put those two images together.
I know, right? Picture him giving a TED Talk with like 250,000 views and becoming a licensed master's level therapist who literally trademarks himself as the addiction killer.
It's a truly jarring contrast. I mean, it defies almost every statistical model we have for addiction recovery and, behavioral change.
It really does. It's a complete statistical anomaly. And I want to understand the exact mechanics of how this happens. So today, we are taking you on a deep dive into the anatomy of that exact transformation.
And we have some really fascinating material to go through for this.
We do. We have a stack of sources in front of us. We are looking at a highly personal, incredibly raw autobiographical document written by this man, Raj Mehta. We're also looking at his official trademark documents, his custom apparel designs, and a nod to his Ask the Therapist YouTube channel.
Yeah, and we really need to view all of this through a sharp psychological lens. Because as we analyze his own words and his clinical practice today, it becomes super clear that this isn't just, some inspirational story of survival.
There's more than that.
Exactly. It is a masterclass in how extreme liabilities, so severe trauma, a complete lack of fear, an intimate knowledge of criminal networks can actually be inverted and forged into these highly specialized psychological tools.
I love that framing. Our mission today is to take you on this deep dive into the anatomy of addiction, trauma, and ultimate redemption. We are going to decode how someone survives the darkest underworlds imaginable, only to emerge as this uniquely equipped healer.
It's quite the journey.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this, because usually when we talk about a therapist, we picture, cardigans, soft voices, framed diplomas on the wall.
Right, the very clinical, very safe aesthetic.
Exactly. But if we look at Raj's current methodology, he is operating in a completely different universe.
He absolutely is. I mean, if you look at his branding, he has officially trademarked a logo registration number 4,901,1005 for those keeping track at home.
Gotta love the official documents.
Right. And it's an image of two fists with the words drug-free tattooed across the knuckles, accompanied by the motto, "Fortune favors the bold."
That is intense for a therapist.
Yeah. And he designs custom apparel, too. Shirts featuring a literal middle finger to addiction, angel wings, and the Serenity Prayer. He actively calls himself a licensed addiction killer, bona fide karmic hustler, and certified recovery gangsta.
Okay, I have to admit, when I first read that in the sources, I was pretty skeptical.
Oh, sure.
Wait, I'm stuck on this. Isn't that just a gimmick? I mean, how does a master's level clinician justify calling himself a karmic hustler in a professional medical context?
It totally sounds like a gimmick until you understand the clinical mechanism behind it. Think about the specific population he is treating. Standard clinical training is highly effective for a lot of things, but it can only take a therapist so far when you're dealing with severe street-level addiction.
Because they've seen things the textbooks just don't cover.
Exactly. When Raj sits down for an intervention with, say, a suburban teenager who is strung out on heroin, screaming, throwing a tantrum, manipulating their parents, Raj's heart rate doesn't even spike. He doesn't sweat.
Because he's negotiated with armed sociopaths in basements?
Yes. He has immediate, unbreakable credibility with his clients. He tells them, I will out-talk you, out-think you, and out-pray you into rehab.
Yeah.
The persona isn't a costume at all. It's a precisely calibrated therapeutic tool.
That bridges the gap between the textbook and the street. Right. It immediately bypasses the addict's defense mechanisms because they look at him and realize, oh, I cannot con this guy.
Wow. So to really understand how those clinical tools work, we have to understand the forge they were made in. And looking at Raj's autobiographical notes, long before he ever touched a drug, his life was already defined by this profound sense of alienation. We're talking about heavy generational trauma.
Yes, his background is incredibly complex. He was born biracial in the U.S. to immigrant parents. His Indian father survived the horrific trauma of the India-Pakistan partition.
Which was incredibly violent.
Mass displacement, extreme violence, yeah. And then his German mother survived near starvation in Nazi Germany during World War II. What's fascinating here is how trauma bonds people. Raj actually notes in his writings that their shared experiences of extreme life or death survival likely brought his parents together.
But while trauma can forge a bond between two adults, it also creates an incredibly unstable, hypervigilant environment for a child. Especially considering, and the detail blew my mind, their marriage was actually illegal in Indiana when he was born. Yeah, due to miscegenation laws at the time.
So, right from birth, he is legally marginalized.
And socially isolated. Within his own extended family, he's facing intense racism. The German side disapproved of a German woman marrying a non-Caucasian, and the Indian side didn't approve either.
So, he's getting it from both sides.
Exactly. With the sole exception of his German grandmother, Oma, who showed him unconditional love, he basically felt like a mistake. He felt he didn't belong anywhere.
It makes me think about how we process childhood environments. It's like, imagine Raj as a kid carrying this invisible, heavy backpack of generational trauma. He's trying to navigate a world where he basically has no safe home base.
And he's actually acting as the American cultural ambassador for his parents, too.
Right.
Translating retail disputes before he's even hit puberty.
Right. So he's handed this completely corrupted operating system from day one. And you see the distress signals very early on. In the second grade, he attempts suicide by throwing himself off a bunk bed.
Which is just heartbreaking. He survives, but his primary takeaway, as he frames it, was that he was hurting all over and no one cared.
Which is a devastating conclusion for a 7-year-old to reach. And then we see this weird fascination with drugs begin super early. In the fourth grade, he chooses to write a book report on illegal drugs. It was supposed to be a simple 2-page assignment, but he writes a 10-page report.
Fixating specifically on heroin.
Yeah, on how dangerous and addictive it is.
This highlights a critical psychological mechanism. Children who experience profound emotional neglect or internal chaos often develop a precocious fascination with self-soothing or numbing agents. He is researching the exact chemical that can shut down that corrupted operating system.
But his own brain tries to warn him. In 6th grade, he gets an opportunity to smoke marijuana. He pays the $20, he's ready to do it. But that night, he has this terrifying, vivid nightmare that drugs completely ruin his life.
And it actually works, right?
Yeah, it scares him so badly he demands his money back and actually stays clean through all of middle school.
It demonstrates a massive internal conflict. His conscious mind is desperately seeking a way to numb his environment, but his subconscious threat detection system is screaming a warning. However, as he transitions into his teenage years, that internal isolation pushes him to actively seek out an external tribe.
And he finds it in the most dangerous places. Here's where I need you to explain something to me because the contradiction is wild. Raj is objectively brilliant. In 8th grade, he scores in the top 1 percentile on a standardized aptitude test.
Right. He's invited to a gifted program, touring a nuclear reactor.
Wait, hold on. I gotta push back on this timeline a bit. If he has a genius-level IQ and he's getting these opportunities, why does he gravitate entirely toward the loser burnouts? In his own words, they were the only group that would accept damaged goods. But wouldn't his smart brain realize the burnout crowd is a dead end? How does he actively choose the path of maximum resistance?
It's a really great question, and it comes down to cognitive dissonance and the psychology of rejection. When his name was called for that gifted group, a teacher literally questioned aloud if he belonged there.
Oh, wow. In front of everyone.
Yeah, and to a traumatized kid, that rejection stings worse than a physical blow. The underworld, however, operates on a completely different metric. It doesn't care about your pedigree, your race, or your trauma. It cares entirely about your utility and your loyalty.
So it's like a pure meritocracy for him.
Exactly. For a highly intelligent, marginalized kid, the criminal element offers an acceptance that the legitimate world denies him.
Okay, that makes total sense. And we see that attraction solidified during a pivotal summer in Germany after 7th grade. He goes to stay with family to escape the chaos at home, and he meets Uncle Kurt.
Right. Uncle Kurt is a 28-year-old artist who looks like a rock star, drives a sports car, and has a room covered in contemporary art and human skulls. To a 13-year-old Raj, this guy is the ultimate blueprint for success outside the system.
But Kurt's wealth isn't from art. He is secretly smuggling heroin. He's flying to Thailand, befriending local police, buying heroin directly from them, and smuggling it back to Germany in resealed cough syrup bottles.
It's a highly sophisticated operation.
And there's this turning point moment. Kurt gets emotional over a partner who disappeared with a massive amount of cash. He pulls out a syringe, shoots up heroin right in front of 13-year-old Raj, looks him dead in the eyes, and says, Don't you ever do this.
Psychologically, this is a textbook case of how role modeling works in reverse. We often think that verbal warnings from authority figures dictate a child's behavior. But behavior is actually driven by observed outcomes.
So the warning doesn't even register.
Right. Raj hears the verbal warning, don't do this, but what does he actually see? He sees wealth, glamour, rebellion, and in that specific moment, he sees the sheer, absolute physiological relief wash over Kurt's face when the drug hits. Raj watches his eyes roll back and his internal monologue says, we need to feel like that one day.
The mechanism of the drug's relief completely bypassed the verbal warning.
Hmm.
That is chilling, and it sets a terrifying trajectory. By 10th grade, Raj is back in Michigan, dealing drugs, carrying weapons, and hanging out at gyms in the heart of the Detroit ghetto. And then the police catch up to him. Plainclothes detectives Haggerty and Crawford pull guns on him at his suburban bus stop.
And his reaction here is exactly what we were talking about earlier with his trauma. This is where we see the clinical manifestation of conduct disorder.
Which is what, exactly?
Conduct disorder in adolescence is characterized by a repetitive pattern of behavior that violates the basic rights of others or major societal norms. But neurologically, chronic trauma rewires the amygdala, the brain's threat response center. When the detectives order him to the ground at gunpoint, a normal teenager would feel mortal terror. Raj feels embarrassed.
Right, because his neighbors might see him. He refuses to lay down because the grass is wet. He literally tells officers with drawn weapons to go ahead and shoot him, but he is walking to the dry pavement.
Exactly. His threat response system is so miscalibrated that social embarrassment registers as a higher priority than a loaded firearm. He's arrested, charged with 4 felonies, and sent to Children's Village, which is a maximum security juvenile prison.
And he's facing a staggering $100,000 cash bond, surrounded by dangerous predators.
It's the ultimate crash course in underworld survival.
Think about the paradoxes in your own life for a second, right? We all have conflicting desires, trying to balance who we are with who we want to be. But Raj's duality was on an extreme lethal spectrum because he actually survives juvie, gets probation, and then attempts this bizarre balancing act.
He is actively trying to run healthy software on that corrupted operating system we talked about.
Yes, he tutors at-risk kids at the Boys and Girls Club. He wins a Troy Community Service Award. He is literally eating dinner at a banquet with the exact same judge who sentenced him. He notes in the sources that he was the first person to sell human growth hormone, Pertropin, in Michigan.
But he operates by this strict, twisted moral code.
I compare this to trying to build a heavy house of cards on a slanted table. You can follow the architectural rules all you want, but the environment itself guarantees a collapse. His code was, he refused to sell bad drugs. So no heroin, no meth, no crack.
Only what he considered clean stuff.
Right. And he explicitly refused to sell to women because he had seen how it destroyed them. And he refused to sell to anyone under 18.
It's an attempt to manufacture control in a fundamentally uncontrollable environment. He's trying to be a righteous criminal. He's also desperately trying to build a legitimate escape route through music.
Oh, yeah. He was a virtuoso musician, playing 4 instruments, writing hit songs at 15. He even worked at 54 Sound, the same studio where Eminem's producer worked. He genuinely cared about the art. But as we said, the table is slanted.
And a collapse is brutal. Before he even graduates high school, his teenage girlfriend gets pregnant. She later finds out was part of a bet her friends made.
Which is just awful.
And then his beloved drummer and close friend Tim commits suicide. If we connect this to the bigger picture in clinical psychology, we look for what's called a grounding moment. This is a sudden traumatic collision with existential reality.
Like hitting a brick wall.
Precisely. When an individual experiences a grounding moment, one of 2 things happens. If they have healthy coping mechanisms, they gain sudden maturity and insight. But if they lack those mechanisms, the sheer weight of the reality crushes them, and they self-destruct.
And Raj had 0 healthy coping mechanisms, lacking the skills to process that magnitude of grief and betrayal. The ambition that fueled his music curdles entirely into self-destruction. He turns to heavy cocaine use, and eventually, he remembers Uncle Kurt. He decides to seek out heroin.
The descent hits terminal velocity. He goes into Detroit, pushes 20 buzzers at an infamous apartment building simultaneously, shouting for a connection.
It's just desperate.
And that descent is then accelerated by a highly toxic mentorship with a man named Steve.
Steve is a nightmare. He's a gym manager, a bodybuilder on steroids, and an incredibly dangerous enforcer. Steve corners Raj in his bedroom and gives him an ultimatum. hand over his high-level cocaine connection, or Steve will break his jaw and beat him until the police arrive.
It, pure extortion. Raj notes he felt a literal chill up his spine, which was a rare physical manifestation of sheer terror for him. He makes the connection for Steve. And in exchange, Steve gives Raj unlimited free drugs and physical protection in the underworld.
Have you ever been in a situation where things were so bad you just wanted someone else to take the wheel, even if they were driving you off a cliff? To an addict with no fear of death, unlimited free drugs and protection is a license to completely let go of that steering wheel.
And they engage in these incredibly dark games.
The pulsometers. They would shoot cocaine while wearing pulsometers just to see who could get their heart rate closer to a heart attack. Steve hit 215 beats per minute. Raj hit 212.
It is absolute anhedonia. Baseline reality has become so painful and empty that they have to push themselves to the absolute razor's edge of death just to feel a fleeting sense of existence.
And the physical toll is wild. Raj suffers 24 hospital overdoses. He loses custody of his daughter and is hit with a $40,000 back child support bill.
Doctors actually threaten to commit him to psych wards because they recognize the suicidal ideation behind his drug use.
And Steve eventually commits suicide, facing a needed heart transplant from the cocaine abuse, which leaves Raj entirely untethered, running with paroled convicts and armed sociopaths until the breaking point finally arrives.
Or rock bottom.
It's his birthday, May 14th, 2007. He is sitting in an abandoned house in Detroit with $50 to his name, and the dope man cuts him off.
Being cut off by a street-level dealer in an abandoned house is the absolute floor of rock bottom, but it serves as the ultimate catalyst. The next day, he goes to Brighton hospitals for detox, and this is where the physiological reality of addiction takes center stage.
The detox sounds medieval. He is diagnosed with polysubstance abuse disorder. He is kicking 8 different substances simultaneously: heroin, methadone, OxyContin, cocaine, Valium, Ambien. I mean, he is vomiting so violently, he's nearly tearing his stomach lining.
Let's explain what polysubstance abuse disorder actually means for the body. This isn't just using a lot of drugs. Different substances hijack entirely different neural pathways.
Right.
Opiates suppress the central nervous system, while cocaine hyperstimulates it. When you withdraw from 8 substances at once, your brain's receptors are misfiring in every conceivable direction. The autonomic nervous system goes into absolute chaos.
Which is why the medical staff insists he takes Suboxone. They tell him it's a standard medication used to ease opioid withdrawals, and without it, he only has a 5% chance of staying clean. But according to his account, Raj aggressively refuses.
He actually fakes a severe allergy to it.
Yeah, telling the doctor it makes him turn red and shake, just to get them to stop offering it.
Yeah?
I want your take on this. Was Raj's refusal of Suboxone an act of pure, irrational stubbornness? Or did he possess this profound self-awareness that any comfort medication would just be a loophole for his addiction to exploit?
Based on his writings, it was absolutely a profound self-awareness of his own cognitive loopholes. He explicitly states he knew Suboxone was a trap for him. The addiction cycle in his brain was so deeply entrenched that if he took even one pill to ease the physical agony, his brain would interpret that as a victory for the addiction.
Like giving an inch to a monster.
Exactly. The cycle would just restart. He realized he had to feel the unmitigated fire to know he had truly survived it.
The physical toll is staggering. He didn't eat solid food for 7 days. He endured what he called 4 shirt nights, sweating through 4 t-shirts every single night just trying to sleep.
And the psychological toll was just as heavy.
Right. For 60 days, he keeps a loaded 9mm hollow point gun on his dresser. He says it provided him a twisted comfort, knowing that if the pain got to be too much, he had an exit. But he never picks it up. He just stares at it and suffers.
And this is where his recovery diverges from standard clinical models. He credits his survival not to textbook therapy, though he obviously mentored that later, but to outpraying everyone. He frames his survival as a raw, spiritual grit. He had to face the absolute bottom of his own corrupted operating system without a single buffer and consciously rewrite the code.
And the rewrite is a complete transformation. In just 3 years, he goes from a patient vomiting in detox at Brighton Hospital to working there as a therapist.
It's a phenomenal turnaround.
He gets his master's degree from the University of Michigan with a 4.0 GPA. So what does this all mean? All those horrific liabilities we talked about, the conduct disorder, the underworld negotiation skills, the pulsometer games with death, they're completely inverted. It's like this incredible alchemy of his life.
Exactly. This is the synthesis we were driving toward. In psychology, we talk about sublimation channeling negative urges into positive, productive actions. Raj took the exact traits that made him a highly effective, fearless criminal and sublimated them into becoming an unrelenting therapist.
Because he knows all the tricks.
He knows every lie, every manipulation, every nuance of the lifestyle because he designed many of them. This raises an important question about clinical training. Standard training can only take you so far, but Raj bridges the gap between the textbook and the street.
He really does. He can look a struggling mother or a famous rapper in the eye and say, I have been exactly where you are and I found the way out. He says himself, when addiction kills one person that I care about, I get 10 people sober in their honor.
It's a powerful mission statement, and it forces us to completely reevaluate what society views as a lost cause. From the biracial kid carrying the heavy trauma of his immigrant parents, to the teenage prodigy running the streets, to the 24 overdoses and the brutal unmedicated detox.
Every single one of those experiences was recycled.
Recycled into the exact tools he needed to pull others out of the abyss.
Because ambition and resilience, the refusal to say die, can literally rewrite a destiny. Raj's story leaves you with this incredible sense of the human capacity to endure, adapt, and transform, which leaves us with a lingering thought for you to ponder.
Think about how we normally view addiction, trauma, and chaos. We treat them as diseases to be eradicated or stains to be hidden.
But if those exact darkest underworlds are the very fires that forge the most effective, unshakable healers, does that mean true empathy and the raw power to save others can only be bought with our own profound suffering?
Could a normal, safe, untraumatized life ever have produced a Raj Mehta?
It makes you wonder about the corrupted code and the broken experiences in your own life. Maybe a goal isn't just to fix the glitches, but to see what kind of specialized tools you can build from the wreckage. Until next time.